I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 77. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hey everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited to have you. And I'm very pumped to be talking today about, as you saw, the title is You Come First. You come first sounds selfish, meaning, I could just hear people on the other end. Actually, my kids come first, or actually my spouse comes first, or, whatever. Insert word there. It could be selfish to maybe think that you come first. But here is what has become very apparent over time for myself, and it's been a really good conversation with clients lately, is that it is very easy to not put yourself first, and it feels necessary, like you think that that's necessary, at least right now, because somewhere in your mind, there's going to be a point where you get to do that. You get to put yourself first. You get to make sure that you're protected and that you have space to enjoy your life, and that, all the things that you imagine that you'll get when you reach this peak, when you reach this point in your firm. Maybe it's a revenue amount. It's like, oh, when I hit $1 million, I'll be able to breathe. Or when I hit 500,000, I'll be able to breathe. Whatever the number is in your mind, what I want you to know is that that thought is a lie. It is important that you take care of yourself right now. That in order to reach your goals, I've talked about this a lot, you need to become the kind of person who can have, not just reach, but actually have those goals. That can have a firm that's doing $1 million, that can have a firm that's doing $500,000. Wherever you are, whatever your goal is, you need to be the kind of person that isn't capable of just reaching the goal, but of sustaining that goal and continuing to grow. If you don't do that, you're going to be a burnt to a crisp version of yourself by the time you hit your goal. And I know this because nearly every single client that I work with burns themselves out. They work themselves to the bone. They work themselves like they would not ask someone else to work. And I don't even mean like, it's not about putting in hours or how engaged you are. Like they are working themselves. They're mistreating themselves through their work. They have unrealistic expectations of what's possible to get done in a week or a quarter or a year. And they are driving themselves into the ground, working, trying to accomplish unrealistic expectations, or because they're in a hurry. Maybe a bit of both. And what I want to say is that if you are the kind of person that feels in a hurry to get there, wherever there is, I would encourage you to push pause and to take stock. Because what I know for sure is that you being in a hurry to get there fundamentally states that this, what you have right now, isn't good enough. And I know that you can't all think that. Like, I think intellectually, it's like, well, no, I think my life is good. I wouldn't say it's not good enough. That's not fair. Like, I am so grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my firm, all of these things. But being grateful for, and something that you kind of just say, and is very different than actually feeling love for your current world, for your current reality. It's almost like we think that there is better than here. And so we push so freaking hard to get there because it's going to be better there. And then we're going to get there and we kind of think things are going to change. Something's going to lift. Something's going to be lighter. We're going to be able to breathe more. we're going to have more money. So it's like whatever it is, right? You think it's going to be better there than here, but truthfully, you're going to work your ass off to get there, and you're going to get there and you're going to realize, none of this actually feels easier. I'm still left with me and the way that I think and the way that I feel and the way that I operate. And unless you can shift into whatever you think you're going to experience at that marker that's going to be different or better, your job is to be that version right now. You get to feel and think anything you want to feel and think. It's all optional. And if you think you're going to feel a certain way when you hit a mark, you're going to feel successful. You're going to feel accomplished. You're going to feel like it's okay to take some time off, right? Which isn't an emotion. You're going to think, I can take time off now. That's what you think you're going to think. You got to start being that now. Now, to some of you, your brain might be skitzing because it's like, well, I can't do that now because I don't have the money, or I don't have the capital. I don't have the resources. I don't have the team. I can't do those things now. But you can operate in a way that feels very similar to the person who's operating at the level that you're seeking. It's important to do this. And here's how I know that this is true. Not only have I experienced this for myself, and it's always going to be, I think, a work in progress to learn and understand myself more and more deeply, really protect and take care of myself better and better and better as time moves on. But it's always, it's a priority for me to continue to evolve and learn about myself so that I do better with that. For you, when you look at the way that you are operating, the way that you're working, the level of stress that you feel, the level of chaos that you feel, do you think you're good at calendaring and sticking to your calendar? Do you think you're good with having guardrails to protect your time and boundaries? Do you think you're good at taking time off for real, like 100% away from work, no brain energy towards work at all? Do you have periods where you do that? These are all things you want to ask yourself. Do you have set work hours? That's another one. Or do you just run into the evenings? Or you have to make up work at night before you go to bed, right? That's how you're viewing all of this. It feels impossible. It can feel impossible to shift out of that and start operating in a new way. You feel like the world needs to change around you before that's possible. The world is never going to change around you. There's always going to be more work. There's always going to be more clients. There's always going to be, you're going to be pulled in different directions. There's going to be new issues as you grow. It is always going to be there. The world is not going to do you any favors by lessening your load. You have to contain it in a way that takes care of you and gets the job done. This is not the way that people tend to approach this. And I want to encourage you to be willing to flip on its head the ideas that you are currently working off of, the beliefs that you're currently working off of. How can you flip the script and say, you know what? I am done not having a lunch. I'm going to take a lunch for myself and I'm going to enjoy lunch. Even if it's for 30 minutes, I'm going to solidly enjoy, take a break, sit outside, whatever your version is, but like breathe, re-energize, recharge so that you can plug back in and kill the afternoon. Like do a great job with whatever you said you were going to do that afternoon. Maybe it's that you start and end work at very specific times and it's non-negotiable, period, done. That's what you're doing. Maybe it's that you say you're not going to work on weekends anymore unless it's dreamy, schemy, fun stuff, but not work, right? Not crushing things, not hustling, not grinding, not trying to catch up. That is a game you will never win. You will never win that game. And you shouldn't try to on your own. If you're having trouble, you should delegate. If you're having trouble, you should find a way to get support and help, even if they could take pieces so that it makes it easier for you to get everything accomplished. But you working yourself to the bone, putting yourself last, dragging yourself through the mud for the sake of the world, because you're telling yourself that's what's necessary to grow your business, you have to hear me. It is a lie. It is a brain error. It is a thought error. It is your job to recognize that that's a thought error, and you have to have and choose deliberately a different perspective, a different mental frame. Let me just offer as an option for you to consider. Maybe the best thing that you could do for your business is to preserve yourself. Maybe one of the best things you can do for your business is not thinking about work the entire weekend, or at least one full 24-hour period. Maybe the best thing you could do is to close your computer at the end at a certain time every day and walk away, because it's all going to be there tomorrow. Maybe it's in your best interest to set expectations differently with clients and with team members, so that everything is not shoved up where you have to do it immediately. Maybe it's in your best interest to order really beautiful, healthy meals that you can enjoy. You don't have to cook, right? Like, what is it for you? How can you take steps to flip on its head your version of what success means? I have worked with way too many people that achieve these huge milestones, and they are a shell of themselves. And they thought it was going to be different when they got there. But the fact that you're a shell of yourself when you get there, I mean, you have to basically take a nap for 2 weeks before you can even think straight again. And what that means is you spend a long time not enjoying yourself, not being the fullest expression of yourself, not giving that gift to the world, and not being able to experience that for yourself. Those years went by, and you, on your deathbed, or whatever time that happens, you are going to look back at this and you're going to think, did I miss something there? If that is the way that you're okay working, my suggestion is to go work for someone else. My suggestion is to go work for a big firm where that's half expected. Go do that. You guys went out on your own, and the courage that took, and the strides that you've made to build what you've built. Do yourself the favor and the honor of putting yourself first. Do not get caught in this mousetrap, this hamster wheel. This podcast feels important because if you don't put yourself first, then it's almost like by the time I get to work with some people, they are so frazzled and so burned out. And yes, we make good headway, and we talk and we learn lessons and we continue to develop. And, you know, it's not a light switch that's flipped where it's like, oh, they have a conversation with me and they implement Monday Map and like, world is good. We're just coasting now. Of course not, because you have been working habitually the way you've been working for years. And so to think that that's going to turn on a dime and you're just going to be this free joy, like you're going to have all this space and, you know, be able to create this ideal way of being through week to week to week, that's not going to happen. But there isn't a magic wand, and there isn't a blueprint solution that you get to follow. There is a process that I have found out that works really well for me and works beautifully for clients. And that process, it gives you the space to customize, but you still have to follow the steps. And by doing that, you start to get closer and closer and closer and closer to really making sure that you are put first, and that all the work is getting done, and that your firm is growing, and it's not at the cost of you. So I want to encourage each of you listening to sit down and think about how you currently believe, like what's your current belief system about the way that it needs to be? And then what do you want to believe? because I'm telling you, I work with enough people to know that it is definitely possible to move towards growth and move towards the firm that you've always imagined, but not at the cost of you, where you can actually enjoy your life and enjoy your work and feels fulfilling and exhilarating, not like the life is being sucked out of you. So you have to think about what you do want, and whatever you do want, whatever you think is going to happen eventually if you just make enough money, you need to start doing that stuff right now. And even if you can't do the full out thing, right? Like maybe you can't hire an associate right now. That's not the smartest move. What can you do that helps move you in that direction, that does give you a bit more space? Maybe it's getting in touch with lawclerk.legal. I think they're amazing. Amazing. I do know that everybody has different needs and it's not going to be for everybody, but you need to start thinking outside the box, and you need to start thinking about how you can create more of what you want for yourself right now. Not when don't wait for things to lighten up. That is not going to happen. So stop fooling yourself. Stop kidding yourself. Examine the way that you're thinking about things right now, the beliefs that you have about how it needs to be, and be willing to see that though the way you're believing is just an error that is happening in your brain. It's a brain loop that you are engaged in that isn't serving you and isn't going to create really what you want to create. It doesn't work that way. You know, a really easy, basic way to think about this is, when someone wants to lose weight, and I've been around, a lot of my dearest coaching friends are weight coaches, and they work with clients on losing weight. And one of the things I hear them talk about so often is you can't hate your way skinny. Because even if you get to the weight, it's all going to come back because you hated your way skinny. You beat yourself up. You drug yourself through the mud. You did all the things. You adhered by the diets. You did all these things. And then you get skinny and then it doesn't last all that long. You can't hold it. It is this. So basically their whole thing is whatever you think it's going to be like then, you need to start thinking and feeling and doing those things right now. So they say things like, you want to be thin, you need to think thin thoughts. What does a thin person think about food? What does a thin person think about their meals and about, all of it? And the truth is they don't think much about it. It doesn't take up a ton of brain space typically, unless they have a disorder. But typically just a naturally thin person, it's just not they don't have a bunch of brain loops about it. They don't have they aren't hard on themselves. They don't treat themselves poorly in order to stay skinny or get skinny. Like that's not how they work. So if you want to be a thin person that's happy at the end of it, and it really enjoys life as a thin person, your job is to learn how to be that person right now. Because if you are that person, if you're operating in that way right now, it's like, it may feel unfamiliar at first, but you have to practice that, because from there you make decisions that honor yourself. And from there you make decisions that are the right calls, that are healthy choices, instead of beating yourself into submission and beating yourself thin. It's the same thing no matter what goal you're going after. If you want to achieve $1 million, whatever you see as the version of yourself at $1 million that can actually have that, hold that, where it's not chaos and a crappy way of being, and it may all slip through your fingers. It can't feel slippery. Like you want to actually get there and know that it's a really great foundation for the next level. You have to be now that person that you envision at $1 million mark. So you could make a list of, what does that person think? How does that person feel? What does that person do day to day? Not just with work, life. What does that person value? What are the non-negotiables? And whatever you write down there, how can you infuse those things into how you are right now? Even if it's not full tilt what you wrote down on the paper, how can you move in that direction? How can you incrementally adopt that way of being, that way of thinking, that way of enjoying life and your work? What does their calendar look like? What do they say no to? What do they say yes to? What kind of deadlines do they have and expectations do they set for people around them? All these things, you need to embody it now. And when you do that, you end up honoring yourself more. You end up putting yourself first. You end up not working yourself to the bone and just having all this unproductive stress. So I would just I felt important to do this podcast because there's so many of you out there, listeners, clients, members that struggle with this. I think it's natural to struggle with this if you own your own business, period. I struggle with this, guys. Like, this is something that I have to keep focused on. And my coach does a really good job of ensuring that I stay focused on that. But you need to make sure that you're paying attention to yourself as you move through your weeks, as you move through your months, your quarters, your years, as you move closer to milestones. What's the feeling that you have? What's the dominant feeling you have? If it's unproductive stress, if it's pressure, if it is dread, then you need to have a look at all of that. And you need to push pause for a second and step back and figure out what needs to change. Because I'm telling you right now, the world is not what needs to change. You can't manipulate your way to feeling better. You can't manipulate the world to feeling better. You have to change how you are thinking about things in order to feel better, for real feel better. So look at the way you're thinking about things right now and then be willing to flip on its head. Almost think the opposite. It's kind of a fun challenge to think the opposite. If right now you think, no, I have to grind in order to hit my goals. The opposite would be, I actually have to be a lady of leisure to hit my goals. As an example, like, play with that. What on earth would that look like? What could you do that did promote more of a leisurely hustle towards your goals than you're doing right now? It doesn't mean you don't work hard. It doesn't mean you don't, but how can you leisurely hustle instead of grinding it out? I hope that this episode resonated in some way. I hope there's a takeaway for you. If nothing else, just to create some awareness, because nothing's going to change if you don't have awareness about what exactly the current state is. So just take stock and consider yourself. What do you need to build into your calendar to take better care of yourself? What do you need to take off your calendar to take better care of yourself? Just what needs to happen to take better care of you, to put you first, and to have a bit of reverence for the fact that you've built this thing that you have is because of you and your brain. You created the firm that you have. That is amazing. So have some reverence for the fact that, you aren't this workhorse. You're actually a really bright individual that had a lot of courage and built your firm. Treat yourself that way. Treat yourself kindly. If you don't, chances are you aren't going to be able to take it to the heights that you want to. And if you do, if you hit those, you're going to be a shell of yourself. What is all that for anyway? Why are we doing this, right? Enjoy yourself. Figure out ways to smile more in your day. Figure out ways to be able to take breaths through your day. Figure out ways to support yourself through the day. All right, everybody. I feel like I'm just repeating myself now. I think you get the drift. But pretty soon there'll be a resource for Monday Map, Friday Wrap. I'm very excited to be able to share that with you so that you can hone in even more. If you're not a client or a member, you can hone in even more on this process for yourself and get curious, gain awareness, and start to move in the right direction where you are really honoring you and the results that you're creating all at the same time. All right, everybody, have a beautiful week. I'll see you next Tuesday. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.